Okay, well, per clip, it looks like if one clip gives us a change in acceleration of negative 7.5 centimeters per second squared, which is difference from this to this, right? Okay? And actually, I said negative 7.5, it's actually positive 7.5. Because for changing from negative 2.5 to negative, never mind, it's negative 7.5, I don't know what I'm thinking. Okay. Forget what I said, but now I'm just talking about the magnitude of acceleration, or magnitude of the change, right? And the magnitude of the acceleration is 7.5 centimeters per second squared per transferred clip, right? So we divide this by 7.5 centimeters per second squared per transferred TP, TC, transferred clip, right? And what do we get? We get 133, about 130. I'm not going to worry about the 3 because we have pretty fuzzy data here to start with, right? Now, this is assuming that the change per transferred clip is always the same, isn't it? Doesn't it? This is assuming, isn't it? Okay, 130 what? Transferred clips. Centimeters per second squared divided by centimeters per second squared per clip is centimeters per second squared times transferred clips over centimeters per second squared, right? Multiply by the reciprocal. And that's going to leave us just transferred clips. Okay? Well, this tells us something about the mass of the entire system. As it's going to turn out, well, if I transfer a clip, gravity's exerting a force here, gravity's exerting a force here, right? When I transfer a clip, we lose the force gravity's exerting on that clip here, and we gain it here, right? Okay? So we change the net force on this system by the weight of 2 clips, by the force of gravity on 2 clips. Okay? If we just take a clip off here, we're changing by the force gravity exerts on that clip, right? But if we then put it over here, then we're changing it by the force of gravity on an additional clip. Now, we'll make this real specific, but I want you to get the general feel of the idea. Now I lost the train of thought because I digressed. Anyhow, it's like then we've changed the net force in the system by the force of gravity in 2 clips. Okay? So if we were to transfer 130 clips, we would actually be changing the force on this system by the mass of 260 clips, right? Okay? And the thing I was going to say is, the reason you don't just take one clip off and measure it is if you take a clip here and transfer it over here, you haven't changed the total mass that's being accelerated. Right? If you start taking clips off and laying them aside, the mass of the whole system keeps changing, right? And we, for reasons that you'll see, don't want the mass of the system to change. Make sense? And we're actually going to do this experiment next week, okay? So we'll do it in more detail, but I want to use this idea to talk about Newton's second law. Okay, so we're going to talk about this in a little more detail, but the bottom line is, you measured acceleration of gravity. I think when you had 3 ramps, got 3 accelerations, graphed acceleration versus the slope of the ramp, and got the slope of that graph. Anybody do that? I don't remember really seeing that. So if you didn't do that, you better do it. Okay? Well, if you do that, turns out the slope of that graph is acceleration of gravity. And if you did it accurately, you would come out with a number very close to 1,000 centimeters per second squared. And you would translate this by a line of reasoning that I won't detail right now into the fact that the mass of those 2 washers plus the 4 paper clips or whatever we had should have been about 260 times that of a single paper clip. So we could take that system, put it on one side, take 260 paper clips, put it on this side, and see if it balances. Now, all this was done by a 1001, 1002 count, right? Totally imprecise. The 20 centimeters could be off by 20%, okay? So it's not going to come out exactly, but maybe it could come out in the ballpark, so let's see if it does. Okay? So by a fairly simple line of reasoning that we won't worry about now, I'm predicting, based on what we measured, that the mass of those 2 washers plus those paper clips is pretty close to the mass of 260 paper clips. Make sense? Now you should understand all the reasoning up to this point. And you should understand that this is something that should correspond to the slope of a graph that you made, but we haven't explained why. Okay? We will, either today or Monday. But right now you don't know exactly how all this connects, but let's go ahead and test the hypothesis, okay? Just see how close we got. I think it should be somewhere within 30% plus or minus of 260 clips. Just based on what I think the uncertainties in the experiment would be without having closely analyzed them. Just my intuition, okay? Yeah, it's an informed intuition, I hope.